Notre discussion aujourd'hui est axée sur la valeur de l'apprentissage et des connexions sud-sud. Chers amis et chers collègues du KIX, c'est un plaisir de vous retrouver ici à Ottawa et de discuter et d'échanger sur nos différentes problématiques et de travailler à atteindre notre objectif avec aussi des éléments qui vont ressortir de nos discussions pour justement appuyer davantage nos pays partenaires pour approfondir la réflexion, pour développer davantage leur politique éducative. Donc, la problématique qui est posée ici est une vraie problématique. Je pense que nous avons eu l'immense opportunité d'avoir ce réseau extraordinaire que nous avons su créer au niveau des différents hubs. Voilà, et au niveau de Africa 21, c'est vraiment une expérience inédite. Et j'aimerais aussi savoir un peu ce qui se passe dans vos différents hubs. Et voilà, et pourquoi pas par la suite trouver aussi des pistes de collaboration. C'est ce que nous faisons depuis hier. Je pense que nous allons continuer dans cette lancée. Je vous écoute. On est dans notre salon.
So maybe we can start by just talking a little bit about South-South learning and connections. Basically, what is it that we are seeing? How is it important, I mean, for the work that we are doing? And if I can just share a little bit of what we've come across within our hub, that is Africa 19 hub, we find that countries are really learning a lot from other countries. And they have told us this through various surveys that we're taking. We have also seen countries take up initiatives that are successful in other countries, and they're implementing them in their own countries. So I would say there's a lot of value in bringing or creating a platform for countries to be able to share across the globe. And I do have a lot of examples that I can share, but let's hear first from Luck. How are you finding this?
Thank you. Yeah, it is very exciting to be here in Ottawa and with this first face-to-face meeting organized by IDRC and the KIX team and GB. For us from Latin America and the Caribbean, this is a very, very important initiative. Well, we all started probably it was an important bet to go into this program. We were very excited, and these 2 years have been special in the sense that, as we all know, the COVID pandemic changed plans, going from a face-to-face approach to a more virtual approach. And at least we had many doubts if it was going to work really. And it did. I think we were able to create a lot of engagement with different stakeholders from the system. Including, of course, the Ministry of Education, but beyond teacher unions and academics and NGOs. And I think that's already quite a valuable issue, a valuable characteristic of this program. But beyond that, of getting people together, I think there are products that are coming out, and probably we will have a chance to talk about many of these examples. But the important thing is that we have concrete examples of what happens when you get people together and you make them work together towards a common purpose. And I think what we see in our region is that there is a lot of enthusiasm to work together towards this common purpose, which is to engage into a conversation that will allow us to tackle very profound issues of our region that have to do with inequality. Latin America is not the poorest, but the most unequal region in the world. And therefore, we have very profound inequalities, asymmetries of power in our society. And of course, education is both a consequence and a cause of that social reproduction. And therefore, the possibility of bringing knowledge, the possibility of exchanging views around those problems, long-standing problems, it's very exciting, really. So we're very eager to what is, well, first of all, to coming here in Ottawa has been really incredible, to be honest, to know each other, each one of the hubs, the members, even the KIX staff, IDRC staff, and also very promising of what we're seeing for the future for this second phase. So happy to also, of course, go into that, but José Luis probably will like to as well tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's really a pleasure to be here. So I'm working with the KIX EAP. So EAP is Europe, Asia Pacific, but we also work with Middle East and North African countries. I echo what you said before. It's been these few days have been showing how important is the work that we are doing, the collaborations we are building, and going back to reflecting why we are here. And we are here because GP partner countries, they ask for a program that addresses the needs that we are addressing. They ask for a program that builds on expertise that is already existing in our countries. So there is a wealth of knowledge, there is a wealth of experts that are ready to support education systems. And the education system, they could benefit a lot from surfacing these good examples. So we often talk in education of the gaps. KIX, we are trying to surface what is working well and how things are working well in a contextual environment within our own diverse regions. And we are trying to learn from that as well. And the hubs, they are perfectly connected to make those linkages, make those bridges between the worlds of research, the worlds of policy, the worlds of practice, to make sure that those linkages are at the end line supporting education systems and making small contributions to better policies, to better implementation, so that at the end learning is improving. Always with the goal of equity in everything that we do. We want to make sure that all the policies they are tackling in a good way and giving opportunities for all of our population that we are addressing. So yes, so South to South, we have a campaign that is promoted by the organization that is hosting the GP KIX EAP Hub, which is a campaign called The South Also Knows. And this is something that sometimes we think we forget, and we need to remember that the South has already a lot of knowledge that needs to be put up to the global and needs to be and complement the knowledge that is sometimes being disseminated from the global North to the global South. So there is a lot of value in this exchange, in this learning, and this overall balance of the knowledge equation that we have here. And KIX is a good vehicle for that as well.
This issue of the challenge of creating knowledge from the South is very important. I think we have to acknowledge the colonial history and the asymmetries of power between the global North and global South. So I think KIX, it's a way of repairing somehow a debt that we have towards the global South in giving it an opportunity for its own researchers and its own policymakers. First of all, I would say to contribute and to own basically the agenda setting. We know that sometimes many of the policies are decided in New York, in Washington, in London, in Paris, and the agenda is set sometimes without contextualized knowledge of what is happening, actually, what are the needs and what are the priorities. And therefore, I think this initiative is unique in the sense that it allows countries in the global South to really own their own agenda. It's a real bottom-up approach. And that's why I think it's so important. It is led, of course, with the support of GPE, IDRC, and KIX team, but it is based on institutions that are on the ground. In our case, in Latin America, with SUMA, and with OECS.
Okay, I think, sorry, Maïmouna.
Ouais.
Okay, I think I'm just picking from what José Luís and Javier have said, that there's a lot of knowledge and evidence that exists within the South, and a lot of expertise as well. And what KIX we're trying to do is to get this expertise, to expose them, basically, because they already exist. It's not like we have a gap of knowledge or a gap of evidence, but the idea is that KIX brings this out so that other countries are able to draw from this. And I think I like the slogan, the South also knows. Yeah, we know. We have the knowledge, we have the evidence. It's all about bringing it out so that the rest can also learn from it. And given that it is from the South, so it is relevant to the region.
For sure.
Yeah, and they're using that information, which is excellent, I think.
C'est très intéressant tout ce qui est en train de se dire là. C'est juste extraordinaire. C'est vrai que on a commencé dans un contexte de crise sanitaire, ça a été évoqué, et la crise sanitaire justement nous a donné l'immense opportunité de pouvoir créer ce réseau déjà à distance avec les différents partenaires de l'éducation. Et si je prends notre expérience au niveau du KIX Afrique 21, ce que nous avions fait, c'est vraiment de réunir les différents partenaires autour d'une table ronde virtuelle et qu'ils viennent échanger autour des priorités éducatives. Donc, c'était une façon pour nous non seulement de partager l'expérience sur ces priorités-là, mais aussi de valoriser l'expertise interne au niveau des ministères. Et ça, c'est quelque chose qui a vraiment, vraiment marché. Et nous avons eu aussi, à l'issue de certaines de ces tables rondes, vraiment des pistes de collaboration entre pays sur des problématiques spécifiques qui interpellent les pays. Sachant que au commencement, bien entendu, de la mise en œuvre du programme, nous avions réalisé une importante étude avec le concours des pays, bien sûr, sur l'identification des priorités régionales. Donc, ces priorités régionales étaient alignées sur les priorités des pays.
So KIX, within GP's work, within GP's own framework for supporting education systems, is providing that support from the angle of promoting the use of evidence, of more evidence in education, and evidence that can be contextual and can be, as much as possible, driven from the Global South, from our Global South institutions. So it's really a fantastic opportunity. I think I speak for all the hubs, the privilege that it is to really be answering this demand that we got from countries and better serve our national teams and the work that they are doing on a daily basis to improve their own education systems.
Ce qui était formidable également, c'est la participation vraiment à ce vaste réseau de toutes les parties prenantes de l'éducation, que ça soit les partenaires techniques et financiers, que ça soit la société civile, mais aussi les fonctionnaires du ministère de l'Éducation. Alors, je dirais que c'était en quelque sorte la parole libérée, démocratisée au sein des ministères de l'Éducation. Donc, on n'a pas souvent l'habitude de voir ça. Et c'était vraiment un élément, en tout cas une expérience qui nous permettait aussi de recueillir des données, des éléments pour en faire des synthèses et des notes politiques à l'endroit de nos décideurs. Et ça, c'est formidable. Et c'est un réseau que nous continuons à nourrir, bien entendu. Et comme vous le savez, au niveau du KIX, la donnée est un élément fondamental. Je pense que nos ministères commencent à prendre conscience de cela parce qu'il y avait justement un manquement à ce niveau-là au sein des ministères de l'Éducation de nos pays d'Afrique centrale, d'Afrique de l'Ouest et de l'océan Indien. La culture de la donnée n'était pas assez présente et donc nous avons réussi justement à faire en sorte que toutes ces parties prenantes soient en quelque sorte sensibilisées, mais renforcer leur capacité aussi sur la nécessité, n'est-ce pas, d'avoir ces données pour pouvoir alimenter efficacement leur politique publique d'éducation. Et ça, c'est une première. Et je pense que la dynamique est lancée et nous allons poursuivre dans ce sens.
Let me talk a little bit about KIX EP specific outputs, and I think we all have many good examples of good response from our national teams. One of our main activities has been the learning cycles. So learning cycles are professional development opportunities where the hub has identified which were the thematic priorities, as all our hubs have done. And after those thematic priorities, we have then created an opportunity for us to mobilize the people who are working at national level on those priorities. People who are based in ministries of education, in academia, in civil society, in private sector, so that they can come together and work together on an analysis that then can be put to the consideration for policy uptake.
The other example in terms of exchange or innovations are, for example, El Salvador, in which El Salvador set as a priority early childhood education. And we had a learning visit going to Chile, which is a country which has done quite a lot of innovative reforms in that end. And therefore, we spent a week with the team of El Salvador's Ministry of Education in Chile, and they met with the different ministries of education, not only Ministry of Education, but other ministries involved in early childhood education and early childhood care, learning about the reforms and the different programs that have worked in this context. So I just want to highlight that this is not only a policy dialogue space. I think the KIX Hub are doing real work in terms of real outputs and real and effective support for countries.
We have so many examples that we can even talk about. And right now we are planning, there's a visit that is being planned between Somalia and the Gambia again, to go and learn about EMIS, just how they're doing there, because Gambia is way ahead when it comes to EMIS data management, and Somalia is not, I would say they're different levels. So they're really interested in just going there in person to learn how are you doing it, and what can we learn from that. And we have very many other examples of countries just waiting to do peer reviews in other countries, just so that they can try and assist each other. And this was their own idea, actually, countries' idea, that we'd like to do peer reviews to assist each other with our EMIS data systems. So us as a hub, ours is to facilitate that. Mm-hmm. And so we are seeing a lot of good things coming out of the KIX project, especially when it comes to the bilateral or inter-country connections and inter-hub connections. We're seeing a lot of improvement, and we are hoping that maybe at the end of KIX, we'll have very many countries that will have improved their education system as a result of the KIX project. Mm-hmm. We have also seen cases such as Lesotho, for instance. Lesotho took lessons on curriculum and assessment pathways. This was during the COVID-19 pandemic, when everybody was struggling to see how are we going to get back into this? How are we going to make sure children are learning? We're not leaving anyone behind. And we had Kenya coming to present, and Lesotho was impressed with what they have done within, that was in 2020, when things were still, most of the schools were closed. And they were impressed, and they said, we want to learn from Kenya. And they did learn from Kenya. And the most interesting thing is they took the lessons and actually implemented in their own curriculum and came up with a curriculum that was feasible within the COVID-19 pandemic. Mm-hmm. So there are some of these real tangible examples that we are seeing that clearly shows that the platform that KIX has created is actually very beneficial to countries.
At the end of the day, KIX is offering choices, offering further alternatives for policymakers whenever they are making decisions. They can have decisions also informed by evidence that is produced at the national level, mobilized at the national level. So one of the interesting 5 learning cycles that we had so far is a learning cycle we worked with the Australian Council for Educational Research, it was on the integration of curriculum with assessment, with pedagogy, and with teacher training. So this is, again, the systematic approach that we are looking for. We want to make sure that whenever we are looking at a specific aspect of an education system, we are seeing how this interlinks with all the different subsectors and how one specific reform needs to take in consideration the other sides of the same education sector. So we had an example during these learning cycles where teams from, for instance, from Tajikistan would learn a specific approach that is being developed in Vietnam. Then we had also, for their analysis, we had very good feedback on people who are doing curriculum implementation and development. In Vietnam, they would learn from someone who is doing the same job in Bhutan. So this has allowed us to see how the inter-country exchange is really a wonderful mechanism for learning, for finding new solutions for existing problems. Sometimes people have similar problems, they can learn. So the potential for cross-learning, for this inter-country exchange is wonderful. And we have some small promises in terms of policy adoption of some of the recommendations that national teams have produced in their policy studies, in their analysis, have been now being put to the consideration to the adoption of the Ministry of Education. And I think that's quite an easy, wonderful point to highlight from the KIX contribution to education systems as well.
Pour revenir sur la connexion Sud-Sud, en fait, au-delà de la connexion Sud-Sud, au niveau de KIX Afrique 21, nous avons dans certains pays des ministères qui sont en charge à la fois de l'éducation, à la fois de l'alphabétisation, mais aussi des questions d'égalité des genres, et notamment l'éducation des filles. Et ça, c'est une problématique dont nous avons fait face, par exemple, au Togo. Au Togo, nous avions mis en place une équipe de coordination nationale, bien sûr, avec toutes les parties prenantes de l'éducation, que ce soit les PTF, la société civile, mais aussi les fonctionnaires du ministère. Et ce qui est incroyable, c'est que dans ce pays-là, c'est les ministres de l'éducation eux-mêmes qui ont pris l'initiative de se mettre ensemble pour décider d'élargir l'équipe de coordination nationale du KIX de manière à ce que on puisse avoir des représentants aussi bien du ministère en charge de l'éducation, mais du ministère qui prend en charge les questions du genre et de l'alphabétisation pour qu'ils puissent travailler ensemble et générer justement toutes ces données et les mettre à la disposition donc des décideurs qu'ils sont pour la prise de décision. Et ça, c'était, je pense, un élément important à souligner. C'est tout pour cette discussion. Je suis Maïmouna Sissoko Touré et au plaisir de vous reparler. Et merci au CRDI pour l'organisation de cet événement qui nous a permis finalement de rencontrer nos hubs sœurs et de pouvoir échanger, approfondir la réflexion sur les perspectives quant à la suite du programme. Merci.